Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate S&S. So, are the borders secure? Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask Kamala Harris, sure, they're secure. But when you ask her if she's going to go down there and check out what the problems are, absolutely not. She is the border czar, as Biden has named her. But I think it's important that you realize a couple things. The border is not secure. The government's aware of that. This leadership is aware of that. And even though you have Congress and Senate saying, hey, we need to secure this border, they don't want to. And there's a reason for that. Understand that. A lot of people think that, well, there's just nothing they can do. This is the plan, guys. This mentality that it's just people that are coming up here looking for a better life. Yes, there are some that are doing that, and we have immigration laws that can allow that. We have asylum laws that allow for that as well. Those have been set in place for a while, and a lot of people have taken and utilized those tools to be able to come into this country legally. But a lot of what you're actually getting across the border is MS-13 and these gangs and things that are coming up. And understand the reason that they're keeping the border open is so that those people can come in. You might be wondering, well, why would they do that? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, it does if you understand the end goal. When you realize that the only thing that will ever eliminate the Constitution of the United States is martial law, then it makes perfect sense. Because as these prices and stuff of the food continue to go up and availability goes down and society continues to go the route that it's going with their immorality and it begins to collapse in on itself, that's going to remove the local power from your local authorities because most people are not going to work for free. That's just the way it works out. And then these gangs will be taking over, your gangs like MS-13. We see it happening out on the West Coast. People just have this mentality like, it's not a big problem. It is a very big problem. When those gangs take over, the only way to deal with them would be through military might, at which point they will declare martial law and you will no longer have rights. It's not going to stop the violence of what's going on with the gangs and stuff. It's just a way to strip away your rights, your right of freedom of choice. And that's where we're headed, guys. I think it's important that we realize that. And it's not just this leadership that's doing that. There's a lot of things that can be said about, Donald Trump that's good, and a lot of things that could be said that's bad. And one of the things that I really disagree with on Trump, and hey, you can hate on me all you want, was militarizing the police force. We're talking about armored personnel carriers, military weaponry, and things like that. We are not Nazi Germany, and they do not need military grade type stuff. Now you have your specialty units, SWATs and things like that. You even have National Guards. If it's a situation that calls for that type of equipment, then okay, that's when you utilize the National Guard. But you don't start arming these supposed oath keepers in office. If you ever watch some of these First Amendment audits and even Second Amendment audits, these new people that are in these peacekeeper type scenarios, we call them law enforcement and stuff. What laws are they actually enforcing? Are they enforcing the laws that are, constitutionally based? Or are they, enforcing laws that are more of a, liberal mentality? We're seeing violent criminals released and then repeat offending, killing people, murdering children, kidnapping children. The drug trafficking and the sex trafficking is on the increase because they're letting these people out of prison out west, and it's becoming a problem. So what is going to happen in your state? Well, you better hope that you keep a good leadership in office. And I see a lot of people saying that they wish DeSantis would become president. I personally do not. The reason I say that is because Florida needs him in office. I believe if he leaves office, we're going to end up with a liberal situation. And the reason I say that is because more liberals are flocking this way. Texas is facing that same problem. They're leaving these broke cities, California, New York, and areas like that. They're coming into our states. They're trying to push the same laws and the same, regulations and stuff like that collapse their economies and that destroyed their states. And they want to bring it into ours like it's going to work the second time around or a third time around. It's not the way it works, guys. But be aware of what the problem is, and be aware of this. You need to get as much food as you can because there will be a day where it will not be safe to be able to just drive up to the local Walmart or Publix or, wherever you do your grocery shopping, man. We're not brand snobs here. Whatever's cheapest, go and buy it, guys. But you need to be aware that there will be a day where you're going to be finding road gangs and stuff that are going to be out there. And that's happening in some states already. California, how many times these carjackings and strong armed robberies and, and things like that. You need to be aware of what's actually happening in our country and who's doing it. And when you see who's doing it, then you see what's being allowed to happen, where that situation is going to get worse because our leadership's not being proactive, either because they're too incompetent or they just really don't care and they have an initiative. And that's what I think it is. It's an initiative, guys. But you just need to pay attention to what's happening, man. One of the things I also want to touch base on is when you're stocking your food supplies and stuff right now, you need to be checking those dates and rotating them stocks, because I think a lot of people are just buying food in to sit back in the corner. So, well, I'm going to be good for the next 10 years or something, because that's not a actual expiration date. It's a sell by date. And while that's true, you also want to make sure that you continue to bring your food in, because guess what? Here before too long, those preps and long-term preps that you've been setting back, that's going to become part of your natural diet, guys, what you're eating, because the pricing that's continuing to go up. Grocery bills have tripled and quadrupled in this state alone, in this county that I live in. I've talked with a lot of people that said, it's cost 3 or 4 times what it used to cost in order to buy the same amount of food. So instead of paying the higher prices, they just get less food. Well, if they had been stocking up, then their kids are not going to be getting less food for their mouths, because they have that food set back. And that's why we stockpile. It's not just for a situation where, just all of a sudden there's no food available anywhere. And we could come to that, but it's not going to be an all of a sudden event. It's going to be something that rolls in, and we see it rolling in slowly, and it's building up, and it's getting worse as we go along. And that's exactly the way we're told that it's going to happen in the Bible. But people don't seem to understand that. To me, it's baffling how many people talk about climate change and the stuff that's happening around, and then act like, well, we got to figure out what the problem is. Well, we were told it was going to happen almost 2,000 years ago. And not only were we told that it's going to happen, we were told why it's happening. And the reason it's happening is because of immorality, the rise of sin. And what we see in society today is immorality, the rise of sin. Sexual immorality, to be, very distinct on that, guys. You need to understand that. That is a sin that is hated. But people don't seem to understand that. They don't want to accept that. They just want to believe that, oh, no, what it is the guys driving into big SUVs. They don't want to sit there and look at it from the standpoint of what the government's been doing, popping off hundreds of nuclear weapons over the last, 70, 80 years. That's going to have repercussions on your society. It's going to have repercussions on the atmosphere and the ozone and things like that. But it's easier to blame the guy who can afford an SUV or, a large pickup truck or a diesel engine or whatever it is. And you don't see them making any sacrifices, though. They still ride around in their private jets and stuff. So, well, I don't know what makes our Congress and Senates and things like that feel like they're more special than everybody, where they get to just fly around in that private jet and drive around in a huge convoy of cars, like they're royalty or something like that. There seems to be this misconception it's supposed to be a government, that's set by the people and for the people and of the people, which means that it's Americans that are in those offices supposed to be looking out for people. But that's not what we see. And that's on both sides of those aisles. So don't just sit there and blame one side or the other. Look at it from the standpoint of it's both of them's fault. And is the president's at fault? Every president that's been in office since I've been alive, as far back as I can remember, to Ronald Reagan, has had things that I disagree with. One of the big things I disagreed with the Reagan administration was simply the fact that they were using Social Security money. That's the money that you put back for when you're older, too old to work. You have that Social Security money put back for you. And they were using that to fund a private war in Nicaragua against drugs, is what the claim was. Yes, that actually happened. When it comes into Bush Sr., there was a lot of things. He said no new taxes, and yet we end up with new taxes and things like that was coming on. Bill Clinton, he comes into office and he opens up the can of worms that we now have, with China dominating the market with this promise of imagine, your American goods being sold to, millions and billions of people over in China. But that's not what happens. They don't allow American goods to be sold over there. In fact, what they do is they encourage the company to come over there, then they steal your patents and copy your stuff and put you out of business. That's what happens in China. And then you end up with Bush Sr. up there, guys, and he comes in, Bush Jr. comes in, and he ends up enacting the Patriot Law, which removes your rights to privacy from the government, gives them a peephole to be able to stare into your lives. I disagree with that, guys. Completely disagree with that. Then you have Obama up there, and he's doing everything he can to destroy this country. That was the warning that we had from Osama bin Laden, that there'd been attack from within, and I believe that's where it came from. Several times, even though the news likes to mood over it, he talked about his Muslim beliefs and things like that, and his husband Michael, or he means Michelle, and they just put a big hoodoo on America and things like that. And then we come into Donald Trump and love Trump for a lot of things, but when he's trying to militarize the police, I disagree with that. That is not their job. That is not their oath. That is not their position. And he was wrong in that. And then we have this bibbling, babbling moron that's up there. It's a buffoon that doesn't even know where he's at. He literally gets lost on stage. He tries to read what's on a teleprompter, and he can't even make it off the stage. He can't even walk up steps. He can't ride a bicycle. But that's the leadership of our country. And what we've been seeing is the moral decline of this country as well. And you wonder how people like that get in office. Are they just voted into office, or are they just inserted into office? I used to think they were inserted, but let me tell you, I believe they're being voted into office because as we progress through time, people have not been getting smarter. Yes, we've been getting more technology, but people are relying too much on that technology, and they're getting dumber. And not only are they getting dumber on normal things in life, they are actually in a situation where, they can't think for themselves. They have absolutely no brain process to figure out who's good, who's bad, and understanding that there's none that are good. There's not been a single president in my lifetime that comes in and everything they did was great. That was going to be just 100% great for the people. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So that's something you need to be aware of. Our local police do not need armored personnel carriers. When I spent time in Wyoming, they actually had sheriff's office up there with armored personnel carriers. For those who don't know what an APC is, that is a military grade equipment, and they have people with full automatic weapons and things like that. For what? What do they need it for? If it gets that bad, you call the National Guard. That's what they're there for, guys. But, there's this just messed up situation where we feel like we have to militarize the police. And understand that's not for your protection. That is so when they declare martial law, they're equipped to oppress you. That's what it is. It's no longer protect and serve, guys. It's enslave and oppress. That's what we're seeing in society today. And you need to wake up to that. But it's good news in a way when you look at all that's happening, because we were told this was going to happen almost 2,000 years ago, guys. And when we see these things coming, we need to start looking up because our redemption draws nigh. That's what I want you to hold on to. Everyone have a wonderful day.